Hello and welcome to the morning sports briefing here on Friday, the 10th of July. And yes, today is a special day. Not only is it Friday and nearly the weekend, folks, but it is also the 100th consecutive edition of the morning sports briefing here, folks. Yes, we have been going now for 100 days here on New Zealand Sports Radio, helping you start the day the best way, up to date with all the important sports news. In the news today, England rocked as West Indies take a grip. Big comeback in Sal's NBL comes up short. Kiwi footballers to play for Somalia and positive tests in English rugby. Let's get on to that football news to start off with. And yes, we have two Kiwi footballers, Jamal Boss and Mohamed Awad, have both been called up to represent Somalia in some international friendlies at home. Jamal Boss came to New Zealand when he was 12 and has played for Manukau United and as well as Tasman United and Hamilton Wanderers as well. So, Awad used to play for Waikato FC when he was a teenager, as well as playing for Suburbs in the Premiership. He's also played for Melbourne Knights and in Thailand. So good luck to those two on their international debuts over there playing for Somalia. In the English Premier League, Brighton Hove Albion lost to Liverpool 1-3. Liverpool, I say, got over their sort of hangover after winning the title. In other results, Everton have drawn 1-1 with Southampton, and Bournemouth. It looks like it's saying there's 90 minutes and 10 minutes of overtime. But I think it has finished Bournemouth 0, Tottenham 0. That leaves Bournemouth 3 points behind West Ham and Watford in the table. Aston Villa are 4 points behind, but they've still got a game extra to play than Watford and West Ham. At the top, Liverpool clearly at the top there on 92 points, with Man City, Chelsea and Leicester City rounding out the top four. Man United in fifth there. Looking at those, what do you call it? Looking at those European places. I'm now going to hand you over to Ashwin, who's going to take us through our cricket update.
Good morning, Paul, and good morning to all our viewers and listeners on the interweb on this momentous occasion of our 100th show. Yeah, not 100 for me, but, Paul, big ups to you, mate. 100 days of getting up and not falling asleep, although you do get to have a sleep after the show. Anyway, getting on with the cricket news. England has rocked the West Indies England are rocked as the West Indies take a grip in the first test. England have taken the upper hand in the first test as they bowled England out. I'm getting this all wrong, aren't I? West Indies have taken the upper hand in the first test as they bowled England out for 204. England struggled throughout, with Ben Stokes getting the top score with 43, a good captain's knock there. Stokes was also involved in the only partnership of note with Josh Buttler, the pair putting on 67 for the sixth wicket. For the West Indies, it was the Holder and Gabriel show, with the two bowlers picking up all of the 10 wickets between them, with Holder finishing with career best figures for 6 for 42. In reply, the West Indies have made it through for 57 for 1. So they're in a pretty comfortable position there, and they'll be looking to hammer home that advantage on day 3 and look to build a good score in that first innings and hopefully only bat that once if the pitch starts taking turn in particular. Now, the Asian Cricket Council has announced that the Asia Cup was likely to be played in a June 2021 window. The PCB was supposed to hold the 2020 event, but has exchanged the hosting rights with Sri Lanka for 2021. So Sri Lanka will host 2021, and the PCB, Pakistan Cricket Board, will host the 2022 event. These announcements come the day after the BCCI President Sourav Ganguly revealed in an Instagram chat that the 2020 event will be cancelled. And as I mentioned on the last night's show of Swinging from the Hip, Sophie Devine has been retained as the captain of the White Ferns. She took over the role from Amy Satterthwaite when Amy went on paternity leave, and Satterthwaite now back from paternity leave, but Devine will continue in the role as a captain, and not surprising after the fabulous year that she had last year in all formats of the game. So, Paul, that's our cricket news on our 100th show. Oh, you're on mute, Paul. You're on mute.
Thank you very much, Ashwin. And oh dear. And I'm going to hand you over now to Stephen, who'll bring us through our birthdays.
Yes, good morning, everybody, and especially everybody tuning into New Zealand Sport Radio for the 100th show. Wow, has it just gone just like that? Unbelievable. Well, there's plenty to celebrate for our birthday recipients this morning. Firstly, an Australian-born New Zealand international cricketer, a well-travelled New Zealand cricketer, and finally a versatile loose forward who represented both Auckland and Northern. Matt Matic, born this day, the 10th of July 1991, is a New Zealand rugby union player who plays for the Chiefs in the Super Rugby competition. You've got to work on that cough, whoever that is. His position of choice is flanker. He made his first appearance for the Chiefs as a replacement awaited the Sharks. May 2018, Matic has played provincial rugby for both Northern and Auckland. Next, Ian O'Brien, born this day, the 10th of July 1976, a former New Zealand cricketer who played 22 tests at 10 ODIs and 4 T20 internationals. A pace bowler, he took 73 wickets with the best figures of 6 for 75 against the West Indies. In 2008, he played his first-class cricket for Wellington, the Leicestershire County Cricket Club, and the Middlesex County Cricket Club. He retired from all cricket in January 2012 due to chronic injury problems. And finally, Scott Cyrus, born this day, the 10th of July 1975, is an Australian-born New Zealand cricketer. Did we know that? He's a commentator and former cricketer who played all formats of the game. An all-rounder, Cyrus played as an aggressive right-handed middle-order batsman and a right-arm medium pace bowler. Educated at Fairfield Intermediate and Hamilton Boys High School, Cyrus has represented Auckland and Northern Districts since 94 and 95. Well, he represented them in 94, 95. Cyrus has played for Hamilton and Hawke Cup domestically. He's also played for Northern Districts and both Auckland as well. One hell of a, I would probably call him a gutsy type of cricketer who's turned out for the Black Caps. That's it for birthdays. I'll be back with some league news very, very shortly.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Moving on then to rugby news. And this evening in Super Rugby AU or Super Rugby Gold, we have the Rebels versus the Reds. That'll be on soon after our Super Rugby Aotearoa and AU preview this evening at 8 p.m. here on New Zealand Sports Radio. And we have the lineups for the Crusaders and the Blues, and a couple of surprising selections there for the Crusaders. In form, Will Jordan has dropped to the bench to allow Sever Reece and George Bridge to be on the wings with David Havili at fullback. Also, the Lucy's there are Fetu Douglas, Tom Christie, and Tom Saunders. Otherwise, not the same lineup as we've seen from them. First choice lineup for the Blues. Finley Christie has jumped ahead of Jonathan Ruru. They switch round. Jonathan Ruru has dropped to the bench. Finley Christie will start in that number 9 jersey. And surprise, in jersey number 12, TJ Fiani, who has been the rock of that defence. I was going to say the unspoken hero kind of thing of it, or the of that defence, of that back line in the 12 jersey, has dropped to the bench, and Harry Plummer has come on into that number 12 jersey, a player who a lot of people would recognise more as a fullback or fly half rather than 12, but he has been coming on into that position from off the bench so far this season. So a couple of surprise changes there for the Blues as well for their big clash with the Crusaders this Saturday at 7:05. Over in England, and they are been doing their COVID tests prior to trying to restart the Gallagher Premiership over there. They did 804 tests over the 12 teams, and 10 players and staff have come back as positive. It's known that at least one player has tested positive from the Northampton Saints, and that also Saracens and Harlequins have had positive tests as well. But they are not announcing which clubs or players have got positive tests, just how many there are. So how many of the 12 teams have had positive tests, we don't know. And that brings you up to date with your rugby news here on New Zealand Sports Radio. I'm going to hand you back to Stephen for the sport that keeps on giving. It's NRL.
Thanks, Paul. It certainly does have a little bit of advertising in the background, if you can see that just over my right shoulder, fellas. In the league news this morning, the Warriors apparently very close to a coaching shortlist to succeed Stephen Kearney, and the Roosters far too good for the Cowboys this morning. But we will start with the Warriors first thing this morning. The Warriors are reportedly close to finalising the shortlist for their next head coach to succeed Stephen Kearney. The Daily Telegraph reports the Mount Smart Club has narrowed down to 5 candidates: Rabbitohs coach Wayne Bennett, former Knights coach Nathan Brown, Storm assistant Jason Rolls, England coach Sean Wayne, and current interim Todd Payton. The panel who will select the club's next mentor consists of CEO Cameron George, owner Mark Robinson, chairman Rob Crute, and club legend Simon Mannering. Brown's time as an assistant with the club this year makes him an expected choice. Aside from a disastrous tenure at the helm of Newcastle that delivered a 26% win rate, Brown previously led the Dragons to 4 NRL title appearances. Bennett, a 7-time premiership winner, joins Payton as the only active NRL head coaches on the list. However, the super coach told the Daily Telegraph last month he has no desire to fill the role and should not be contacted. Someone may well have contacted the Warriors about me, who knows, but I can tell you right now that I've not spoken to anyone from New Zealand. I have no plans to, Bennett says. Very coy man, though, you got to say. Even if the Warriors approached me, it would be a straight no anyway. Okay, we watch that with interest. I have family commitments in Australia with my son, Justin. How can I go overseas when I have to help look after him? I don't see Justin enough as it is. If the Warriors go with Riles, who works underneath Craig Bellamy at Melbourne, they will need to pry him away from his upcoming role with England Rugby Union as a skills coach, which he is set to take up at the end of the year. Well, to action on the field, the Brett Morris replacement, Matt Ikuvalu, has etched himself into the record books, becoming the Roosters' first Rooster to score 5 tries in a match since 1955 to help the defending premiers thrash the Cowboys 42-16. The 26-year-old was expecting to watch from the sidelines until Morris sustained a groin injury in the warm-up and was ruled out, opening up Ikuvalu's first opportunity since round 2, back in March. Both sides had scrappy starts, with the young Cowboys' first 5, Scott Drinkwater dropping 2 identical balls within minutes of each other, and then just before a halftime, the Roosters looked out of sorts without a host of players, including inspirational captain Boyd Cordner. Angus Crichton switched sides to fill the hole of Cordner, but didn't have the same effect as he knocked on the type of Luke Keary pass that would usually be a sure 4-pointer. It was the Cowboys who got on the board first through hooker Reece Robinson, who bolted out of the dummy half. It was the first time since round 17, 2019, that the Roosters had been kept scoreless in the first 20 minutes. That's pretty incredible, you've got to say. The Cowboys got a chance to edge out another 2 points, but Kyle Felt shanked it with the ball rebounded off the goalpost. With 10 minutes to go in the first half, the Roosters finally started to look more like themselves. James Tedesco's freakishly quick hand sent Morris replacement Matt Ikuvalu over in the right corner, with Kyle Flanagan sliced the conversion straight over the black dot. 5 minutes later, Sitili Tupuoneua crossed after a brilliant offload from the destructive front rows, Suya Takiaho. The Roosters came out firing in the second half as Ikevalu scored back-to-back tries to get his first career hat-trick. Then Tedesco proved that once again why he is the best player in the game as he broke through a flimsy Cowboys defence and threw a perfectly timed pass to Luke Keary, who scored under the post. And minutes later, Keary scored a second just to the left of the post. The masterclass continued as Flanagan threw a long-range pass to Ikevalu over for his fourth try of the night. Prior to Thursday, he had only scored 4 tries in his NRL career. In one game, he pretty much doubles it. So that final score again, the Roosters 42, Cowboys 16, and I will just check in and see what games we have got coming up tonight. Games that you can look out for a team coming up tonight. Of course, a big one that's important to us coming in from somewhere in Australia, guys. It's Cyber Super Stadium in Robina. Now, that must be in Sydney, and that's an 8 o'clock start between the Titans and the Warriors. Go the Warriors. And finally, from the overused Bankwest Stadium, we have got the Rabbitohs versus the Tigers, and that one kicks off a little bit later at 9:55 p.m. as we go into our weekend. Everything's starting to fall to bits over here. I've got the hands holding everything up. But that's it for league news as we go into our weekend. Like I say, enjoy your day, everybody, and I'll be back tomorrow from another location. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you very much, Stephen, as it all collapses around him in his car there. So, yes. Cebus is apparently on the Gold Coast. Thank you, Hugh, for that update. The government in New Zealand has announced, or Shane Jones has announced, funding for some projects in Northland, including a bike park in Pohi Island, as well as upgrades to for New Zealand, for Northland Rugby Union, so that they have themselves ready for the Women's Rugby World Cup in September 2021. So good to see that we are progressing towards those World Cups. I remember we have not only have the Women's Rugby World Cup coming up, but also the Women's Cricket World Cup, and also in 2023 the Women's Football World Cup. So lots of action on that front for New Zealand. Overnight, yesterday evening in the Sal's NBL, we had the Taranaki Mountaineers beat the Nelson Giants 95-88. In that one, you've got to say that Ruaka stood up for the Taranaki Mountaineers with 24 points, was ably assisted by Jones with 21 points. He also pitched in with 16 rebounds as well. Tuffin helped on that on the rebound side as well with 13 himself there. Over on the Nelson Giants, it was more of a one-man show with Brooks with 23 points, and that was not enough to hold off the Taranaki Mountaineers. In the second game of the evening, it was a much closer affair. It didn't look like it at one point, because the Auckland Huskies did beat the Canterbury Rams 88-81. But the Auckland Huskies at one point had a 25-point lead. I've got the right one. No, I've not. I've got the wrong game. I myself mixed up entirely with the two games. I am very sorry, folks. It was the Giants that had a 25-point deficit to the Taranaki Mountaineers and came back to force overtime. The Giants, who apparently had a number of injuries this season, were battling, but came up short just in the end. Sorry, folks, got myself mixed up between the two games. The Auckland Huskies beat the Canterbury Rams. Canterbury Rams, who won their first three of the season, but are on a losing streak at the moment. The Huskies, that expansion team in Auckland, getting their third win of the season up there. It really was a team effort with four players getting themselves into double figures. Marina Alaf with 19 points, ably paired up with Murray, who also pitched in with 19 points. But Henry, who got 17 points, also picked up 14 rebounds. So yeah, a real group effort by those three to see off the Canterbury Rams over there. That means that in the table, the Taranaki Mountaineers and the Franklin Bulls are top of the table with 5 wins, followed closely by the Manchester Jets on 4. And then you have the Otago Nuggets, the Auckland Huskies, Nelson Giants, and the Canterbury Rams, all those teams on 3 wins. So it really is a close competition over there in the SALS NZ NBL. Chris Froome will be leaving Team Ineos in cycling, and he'll be joining Israel Startup Nation next year. He, the multiple Tour de France winner, will be moving on. He says he wants to become to win more Tour de France's than anybody else. So far, he has 4. He would need to win 2 more to get ahead of a number of riders who have won 5 Tour de France's in their career. It's having the 2018 winner and Geraint Thomas, and the 2019 winner of the Tour de France, Egan Bernal, already on, as his teammates currently at Sky. He's looking at moving away to become the sole leader of another team. Don't forget, this evening we also have netball back. The Pulse will be taking on the Steel at Auckland Netball Centre. So get down to there in St John's if you want to get a taste of netball. The Pulse, who currently top of the table with 5 wins out of 5, taking on the Southern Steel, who are bottom of the table with just 1 win from 5. I think everyone is expecting the Pulse to win that, but maybe we will have an upset on the cards. Who knows? Don't forget, you can listen to New Zealand Sports Radio on the go. Just search for New Zealand Sports Radio on Acast, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio. You can listen to us on your commute every morning, or you can watch us or join us here on Facebook at 7 a.m. every single morning for the morning sports briefing. You have now started the day the best way, up to date with all of the important sports news. Thank you, everyone who has supported and watched over the 100 editions that we've had. So we've been going for 100 days now. Perhaps not the slickest show this morning. A bit tired, a bit cold. But don't worry. We'll be back again tomorrow at 7 a.m. with the morning sports briefing.